Before Rome became an empire, it was only a quiet river, silent hills and a forgotten valley. Along the gentle curves of the Tiber River, wooden huts stood beneath pale morning skies. Smoke rose slowly from clay ovens. Farmers carried baskets of grain. Shepherds guided their sheep across soft grass. Children ran barefoot along dusty paths. No one knew that they were standing on land that would one day rule half the known world. The hills surrounding the valley did not speak, yet they watched. 7 hills, standing like ancient guardians, formed a natural fortress around a small and fragile settlement. Rome was not born in glory. It was born in uncertainty. Its people were simple. They feared storms. They prayed to unknown gods. They hunted, traded, and survived. They fought neighboring villages for water, land, and honor. Their lives were hard, and their future was unclear. But Rome had something rare. It had hunger. Not hunger for food, but hunger for power, for survival, for dominance. As years passed, huts turned into stone houses. Dirt paths became stone roads. Wooden bridges became arches of carved rock. Wells were dug deeper. Walls were raised higher. Rome was no longer only a village. It was becoming a city. Young men trained with spears beneath the sun. Blacksmiths shaped bronze with fire and sweat. Traders began arriving from distant lands, bringing spices, oils, metals, and stories of empires far away. And Rome listened. It learned how other cities ruled. It learned how other kings conquered. It learned how other empires fell. Rome did not want to fall. Rome wanted to rise. Stone by stone, road by road, Rome expanded beyond its valley. It conquered small tribes. It built forts. It claimed rivers. Its armies marched with discipline and fearlessness. Where Rome stepped, borders moved. And the world began to notice. Markets grew crowded with voices, colors, and gold. Public baths were built where strangers met, talked, and plotted. Fountains flowed endlessly, reminding citizens that Rome controlled not only land, but water, life, and comfort. Statues were carved to make leaders eternal. Temples were raised to please powerful gods. The Forum became the beating heart of the city, a place where laws were spoken, destinies were decided, and power was displayed openly. Rome was no longer just a city. It was becoming a force. From distant hills to wide plains, banners of Rome began to appear. Its soldiers marched in perfect formation. Their shields reflected sunlight like moving walls of steel. Their discipline was unmatched. Their loyalty was feared. Every road that Rome built became a promise and a warning. Rome's roads did not only carry trade, they carried armies. They carried laws. They carried empire. And with empire came men who would shape history. Julius Caesar was one of them. He did not look like a king. He did not speak like a god, but he walked like destiny followed him. When Caesar crossed the Rubicon River, he crossed more than water. He crossed tradition. He crossed law. He crossed fear. He chose power. His victories expanded Rome beyond imagination. Lands fell. Kings surrendered. Cities opened their gates. His name echoed from marble halls to battlefield camps. But power attracts shadows. Caesar's rise created enemies within his own city. Senators whispered. Blades were hidden. Loyalty turned fragile. And when Caesar fell beneath knives in the Senate, Rome did not fall with him. It changed. The Republic began to fade. The Empire began to rise. Augustus stepped forward, and Rome stepped into a new age. One man now ruled where many once argued. Under his reign, Rome expanded further than ever before. More than 60 million people lived under Roman rule. From the cold lands of Britain to the burning deserts of Egypt, Rome's shadow stretched across continents. Rome had become the superpower of the ancient world. And its greatest weapon was not only steel, it was fear. The Colosseum rose in the center of the city like a stone mountain of control. 50,000 people filled its seats. Trumpets echoed through its arches. The sand inside its walls absorbed blood, sweat, and screams. Gladiators walked into the arena knowing that death was watching. Lions roared behind iron gates. Crowds cheered as men fought for survival, for honor, for mercy. The games were not only entertainment. They were a message. Rome gives life. Rome can take it away. The empire seemed unstoppable, but even giants grow tired. Borders stretched too far. Corruption spread through power. Gold disappeared into private hands. Leaders grew weak. Enemies grew patient. Rome's walls still stood, but cracks were forming. From distant forests and cold mountains, shadows began to move. Tribes watched the empire closely. They waited. They learned. They gathered strength. And then they came. Flames rose into Roman skies. Statues fell. Marble streets echoed with panic. Citizens ran. Soldiers bled. The city that once ruled the world began to shake. Rome was bleeding. One by one, its borders collapsed. Its wealth faded. Its unity shattered. In the year 476, the Western Roman Empire officially ended. But Rome did not disappear. Its laws lived on. Its roads still guide cities. Its language still whispers inside modern words. And now, through artificial intelligence, we are able to see its soul again. Ancient temples rise beside glass towers. Stone streets glow beneath neon light. The past and the future stand side by side. Rome did not die. Rome evolved. Rome's fall was not a single moment in time. It was a slow fading, like a dying fire losing its glow. Cities once protected by Roman legions now stood exposed. Trade routes broke apart. Gold coins lost their value. The great roads that once carried armies and merchants became silent. Stone veins leading nowhere. In the countryside, villas were abandoned. Fountains dried. Statues cracked beneath changing seasons. The empire that once fed millions could no longer feed itself. People did not forget Rome overnight. They remembered it in fear. They remembered it in stories. They remembered it in prayers. Kings who ruled smaller lands began copying Roman laws. Builders copied Roman arches. Soldiers copied Roman formations. Even in death, Rome still taught the world how to rule. Centuries passed. New empires rose. New religions shaped nations. New borders were drawn across the same lands Rome once owned. Yet beneath those lands, Roman roads still lay buried. Aqueducts still whispered water through broken stone channels. Forgotten temples still guarded dust-covered statues. Rome became a ghost, invisible, but everywhere. And now, after thousands of years, technology has done something that no empire could. It has brought Rome back, not with stone and blood, but with light and code. Through artificial intelligence, we can now rebuild what time erased. We can restore walls that collapsed. We can raise columns that shattered. We can walk streets that disappeared beneath modern cities. We can see markets that no longer exist. We can hear fountains that stopped flowing centuries ago. We can imagine citizens walking beside us, unaware that their world would become history. AI does not only recreate buildings, it recreates memory. It allows us to step into lost time. It allows us to feel forgotten worlds. It allows us to ask dangerous questions. What if Rome had never fallen? What if its empire had survived into the modern age? What kind of world would we live in today? Would our cities look different? Would our laws be stronger? Would our wars be fewer or far more destructive? Imagine a world where Roman roads still connected continents, where Roman legions guarded borders with modern weapons, where the Colosseum became a digital arena instead of a stone ruin. Imagine ancient temples standing beside glass towers. Imagine marble statues glowing beneath holographic lights. Imagine Latin echoing inside digital screens. Rome would not be ancient. Rome would be eternal. The future that never happened still waits in our imagination. And now, through artificial intelligence, we can finally see it. We can rebuild cities that never existed. We can explore futures that were never written. We can walk timelines that were erased. Rome becomes more than history. Rome becomes a warning. Every empire believes it will last forever. Every empire believes its power is unbreakable. Every empire believes its time will never end. Rome believed the same. Yet time proved otherwise. The stones that once ruled the world now lie broken. The empire that once controlled continents now lives only in memory. And still its shadow remains. Because Rome was not just a city. Rome was a blueprint. A design that future powers would follow. A lesson carved in stone. The future that we are building today is walking the same road Rome once walked. Different machines. Different weapons. Different cities. But the same hunger. And the same risks. The world we live in today is built on Roman bones. Beneath highways, beneath cities, beneath modern nations, the foundations of Rome still exist. Roads still follow ancient paths. Laws still follow Roman logic. Even the way we measure time carries echoes of Roman systems. Without Rome, the modern world would look very different. But Rome's greatest power was not only what it built, it was what it taught. Rome taught humanity how to organize nations, how to control territories, how to write laws, how to command armies, how to design cities, how to use fear in order to rule. It also taught humanity something else. Nothing lasts forever. Every empire that rose after Rome believed it was stronger, smarter, more advanced, more eternal. Yet every empire that followed began repeating the same patterns. Expansion, power, control, wealth, corruption, division, collapse. The Roman cycle became the empire cycle, and humanity keeps walking that path. Today's world is faster, brighter, louder, more connected. But the hunger that built Rome still lives inside modern nations. The desire to dominate. The desire to control resources. The desire to build monuments that challenge time. Skyscrapers now replace marble temples. Satellites replace stone roads. Digital borders replace city walls. But the empire blueprint remains unchanged. And this is where artificial intelligence becomes more than a tool. It becomes a mirror. AI allows us to rebuild lost empires not just to admire them, but to study them, to compare their mistakes with our future, to learn what destroys power, to learn what preserves it. When we see Rome rise and fall in perfect digital clarity, we are not just watching history. We are watching ourselves. We are watching our future. We are watching what happens when power grows faster than wisdom. We are watching what happens when technology grows faster than responsibility. Rome once ruled the known world. Now technology rules the unknown future, and both carry the same danger. Rome fell because it forgot its limits. Modern civilization risks the same mistake, because no matter how advanced our machines become, human ambition remains unchanged. Rome teaches us that progress without balance leads to collapse. Strength without unity leads to division. Control without justice leads to rebellion. The stones of Rome still whisper this warning, but only those who listen can hear it. The empire that once ruled the world is now a memory, but its lesson is eternal. And in that lesson, the future of humanity waits. Long after the empire collapsed, people still walked on Roman roads without knowing who built them. They drank water from aqueducts without remembering the hands that carved those channels. Through stone mountains, they lived inside cities whose foundations were laid by forgotten engineers. Rome had become invisible, yet unavoidable. The empire no longer existed, but its shadow ruled silently. Medieval kingdoms rose upon Roman ruins. Cathedrals were built using Roman stone. Kings sat on thrones placed above ancient forums. Every new power unknowingly stood on Rome's shoulders. The memory of Rome transformed into myth. Stories were told of golden ages, of perfect laws, of lost greatness, of empires that could never be rebuilt. But myths fade. And now something unexpected has happened. Humanity has gained the power to resurrect what time erased. Artificial intelligence allows us to walk through vanished worlds. It allows us to simulate forgotten streets, rebuild broken temples, and hear echoes of voices that vanished 2,000 years ago. We are no longer limited by ruins. We are no longer trapped by dust. We are no longer guessing. We are rebuilding memory itself. When we recreate Rome through AI, we are not just restoring stone. We are restoring context. We are restoring life. We are restoring forgotten realities. We can see how crowded the markets were. We can measure how wide the streets felt. We can understand how power was displayed. We can feel how control shaped daily life. Rome becomes more than ruins. Rome becomes a living lesson, and lessons are dangerous, because lessons force change. They force us to question modern power. They force us to question modern empires. They force us to question our own future. The more clearly we see Rome, the more clearly we see ourselves. History is not behind us. History is inside us. Every law we write, every city we build, every monument we raise, Rome is still watching. Not from the past, but from our foundations.